Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Robin, and today we're going to be talking about the best and the worst of 2022. I feel like I had a pretty middle of the road reading year. And in saying that, I read some really great things. I finished out a bunch of series that I loved, and just in general, because who's really out here completing series? Me, that's who. And then I just read some other things that they were okay. I think I DNF'd more than I have in any other year, which is not saying a lot. I didn't DNF like tons and tons of books, but I think I DNF'd like, I wanted to say 6 or 7, but I'm pretty sure it's more than that. I DNF'd 11 books last year, which is more than I normally do, but time is short. We don't have time to read the books that we don't like, and so I DNF'd those. But none of those books are on this list because clearly they were not good enough for me to want to continue, with the exception of like one book which is a soft DNF, and so I'll get back to it. I just wasn't in the mood for it when I read it, but the others, trash. Anywho, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna start from the worst and work our way up to the best, just so that I can get this off of my chest. The worst book that I read in 2022 was The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. And you know what? I did this to myself. I made Ray and I buddy read this. I was gonna read this for Black Aweenathon. It's been on my shelves. I knew that it was terrible, okay? How terrible it was, I did not expect this, okay? And so Ray, for that, I normally don't apologize, but I'm sorry for this one because this was trash. So you have this girl, Nella. She is Black and she is an editorial assistant at this place. And she's the only Black girl at her job until one day another Black girl, the other one, shows up, and Nella's world is flipped upside down. She starts to get these menacing letters and notes, just telling her that she should leave. She starts to feel a little uneasy with the new Black girl because the new Black girl is not what she thought she would be. And this just boils down to, what the fuck did I read and why did I read it? Because throughout this whole time, you are thinking something is happening to Nella, something sinister is going to happen to Nella. And when you find out what that thing is that happens to her, I wanted to fight the air, okay? I want to fight the air. I want to fight the author. I want to fight anyone. No, no, no. I don't want to fight anyone who likes this. If you did like this, just let's talk. I have a few questions. Nella was annoying. She was doing the bare minimum at her job, but complaining that the other Black girl, Hazel, was getting all this attention and glory from the other editors that she never got. But like, girl, you were barely doing your job, okay? Hazel came in and was doing more than you. Not that I was a fan of Hazel, because once you find out who Hazel is and what she's doing, you're just like, why? What's going on here? And I really just don't understand what the point of this book was. I don't understand what it was supposed to be telling us about Black sisterhood or Black relationships in the workplace. And then the end of it all, when Hazel's like, you are who I thought you were. And that's what it boils down to. Hate this fucking book. I hate it so much. I think about this all the time and how much I hate it. There were so many things that could have gone better with this. We could have explored, there's a scientist in here who has created something. We could have explored her more. She would have been far more interesting. And figuring out why she created what she created would have been a way better use of time. Or we could have followed why all of this was happening in the first place. How like certain people were the ones creating a change of sorts. Dumb. Fucking dumb. Don't read this. If you have a similar taste to me, do not read this unless you also want to be mad. I gave this 1.5 stars. I would have given it 1, But the half star was that in the beginning, I was intrigued. I was curious to see where it was going because something does feel like it's happening to Nella and you want to figure out what it is. And then there's alternatively another timeline where something similar happened to someone else and you're just like, are these two timelines like the same? Is the same thing happening over and over again? And that's where the intrigue starts and ends. Then the next worst of the worst is Library of the Dead by T.L. Huchu. There's a library. There are dead people. But there's no library of the dead. This is misleading. I think I ended up giving this 1.75 stars because, again, in the beginning, you are very interested in seeing where this goes. You are following Ropa, who has the ability to speak with the dead, and she often helps them either carry messages to their loved ones, or I think she like helps usher them into the afterworld for a price, of course, because free labor. We don't do that here. And Ropa is a funny character. I love her wit. I think she's very smart. But the overall plot of this really goes off the rails very soon. You think that she's trying to get into the secret society of people who have similar abilities as her, but she's actually investigating why children are going missing. And when you figure out why the children are going missing and where they're going, one, I didn't care by the time I got to the end of it. And two, it was stupid. I was buddy reading this with Steph. I don't know if she ever finished it. And if she did, I'm so sorry. Should let that one go. We both should have. And so it just was not interesting. Also, again, I thought it was a library of the dead. Not a library and the dead. That's not what I signed up for. Then one I gave 2 stars, I don't have a physical copy, but I had an ARC of it, was I'm So Not Over You. Yes, I'm So Not Over You by Kosoko Jackson. This is a second chance romance. Here's the thing. You don't know why. You never find out why they need a second chance. You know that they break up, but you don't know why they break up. You know that the main character still has feelings for his ex, and his ex comes back and is like, hey, I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend so that my parents will get off my back. And the main character is like, I hate this guy. He's a jerk. He is super annoying, but he's also very hot and he's rich. And so I'll give him a shot. He doesn't tell us anything redeeming about his ex-boyfriend, about why he's so in love with him. In fact, a lot of the time he complains about him. So I was just like, you love him because of what? Even his friends are like, what? Why are you doing this? Why are you going along with this? Because the whole time he's like, this doesn't really have anything in it for me and I hate it. Now, there does come a time when there is something in it for the main character, and it may be because I had an ARC and maybe some of the things changed in the finished copy, but there was a lot of continuity issues. So like they're going to a wedding at this editor guy's house, but then later on they're kicking the editor guy out of the wedding. Isn't this his house? How are you going to kick the host out? Like, let's make sense of these things. And then they're just, it's just so annoying. None of the characters are fully fleshed out and you're just like, I don't care about any of these people. I hate all of these people. And I still don't know why you guys are having a second chance at this romance. You have not convinced me that it deserves a second chance. And so I hated it. Next book on my list is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I think I ended up giving this 2.25 stars. I mostly didn't like this because it was boring as fuck. Now, I will say, if you are like a big Shakespeare person, this probably is your fucking jam. You probably love the fuck out of this. But I am not. And all of the characters seemed pretentious as fuck and super annoying. The main character was like trying to be Captain Save-A-Ho. And I was just like, sir, because in the beginning, you kind of know that they don't commit the crime that they are being accused of. And so you spend the whole book, you go backwards, trying to see how events led up to his eventual accusation. I don't think we are looking for any kind of good characters or any like bright sunshiny people. Everyone in here is morally gray or just an asshole. And while I don't have a problem with that, I pretty much enjoy it. Everyone was just annoying. And these random monologues that they would have just didn't do it for me. I just did not give a damn. There was a lot of time spent with each character trying to figure out, or with each character saying which Shakespeare character they saw themselves reflected in the most and embodying that character. And let me tell you, I didn't care. I didn't care. I mostly didn't like this because it was boring, but it was one of the priority books that I needed to read until I read it. And then the last book, that was not technically, obviously it was not the worst book that I read because that went to the other Black girl. But let me tell you something. This book right here, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, the first of the Crescent City series, put me in a massive reading slump. I was buddy reading this with Dasha. First, we thought it would be fun to make a drinking game of this and drink every time they said things like alpha hole and referred to something that the main character Bryce was wearing. And let me tell you, we would have died if we continued drinking. Died. This comes in at a whopping 799 pages, and that is about 300 pages longer than it needed to be. You spend the first 25% hearing about people that you will never see in this book again, and I hear that they come up a lot in book 2, and let me tell you, I don't care. I didn't care about them in the first 25%, and I will definitely not care about them in the second book. This did not get entertaining enough for me until the end, until we started to solve a mystery that Bryce, the main character, and Hunt, the other main character, he's an archangel who is sent in to protect Bryce as she is investigating a murder. And I thought we were going to investigate the murder. But no, we spent majority of the time establishing a relationship between Bryce and Hunt, and most of the time they were just hateful of each other. And Hunt kept calling Bryce a party girl and saying that she wasn't a whole lot of, she was pretty vapid and didn't care about a lot of anything. And then Bryce is just going through a whole bunch of trauma and internalizing it and trying to solve this murder, kind of. Terrible detectives, the both of them. The pair of them, terrible. The politics of this world, which seems very complicated for this one place. There was like a war that happened between all of the mythical peoples and created a war. There were factions and loyalties were tested, and I could not care less. There was like King of the Fays, but there's also like the highest archangel, but there's like 2 of them. I don't know. I don't care. I'm never going to figure it out. I hated this fucking book. I want to say I hate this more than the other Black girl, but I did start to like it towards the end, but not enough for me to want to read this ever again or to continue on with this series. And it's really thick. I think I ended up reading this. When did we finish reading this? September maybe? I read this from May until August or September. That's how long it took me to read this. That's how long it took me to fucking read this book. And that wraps up all of my worst books of the year. I want to say I regret reading them. I think I actually may regret reading The Other Black Girl, but I kind of don't because I had a fun reading experience, buddy reading this with Ray, and we were both just texting each other like, what the fuck? Also the camaraderie around all of us who hate it. I don't regret. I do regret continuing on with I'm So Not Over You. I regret that. Big regrets. But everything else. Also, I should have DNF'd if we were villains. I knew I was bored, but I wanted to see what was gonna happen. This curiosity thing that I have, I really gotta stop with that. Like, stop being curious, bitch. Relax, let it go. Anyway, let's move on to my favorites. So the first one, this is the least of my best. So still very good. And it's kind of a cheat because it's not just one book, it's a series. It is the Mistborn Era 1 trilogy. And I say this because, one, this was my first adult Brandon Sanderson. I had read Steelheart by him, which is his middle grade series, the Reckoner series, DNF that series this year. But Mistborn, I was hooked from beginning till the very end. Now, Well of Ascension, not super into it. I gave The Final Empire 5. I gave Well of Ascension 3.75. It just did not have the same staying power as The Final Empire did. And then Hero of Ages. I was really putting this off because after I read Well of Ascension and just wasn't really enjoying it, Dash told me I really need to read Hero of Ages because I was really going to like it. And she was right. She was right. This is one of the best endings that I have seen in a long time. There were characters in here that I didn't even care about, and I was just in tears, and I was just so worried about them, and I just needed to know what was gonna happen to them and just the world and everybody in it. I was at the end of the book just sobbing, like actual tears. And I don't generally cry at books, especially not that hard, especially not a fantasy. But God damn, was that a good ending. You're starting off with Vin, who is an orphan. Her family has kind of abandoned her either by death or just abandonment. And she finds out that she has these abilities, and she just thought like maybe the ability that she has to survive was just something innate to her. But it turned out it's magical. She runs into this guy, Kelsier, who I loved from the beginning. Funny and just immediately captivated me. And then the way that he just was with Vin and their other band of misfits, I just immediately adored him and loved him. And so they have a plan. They're trying to bring down the empire that they live in because they just think it's terrible and it is not equal. There are people, nobles at the top, that are just reaping the benefits of everything, while there are all these slave people down at the bottom who are dying at the hands of these mysterious things out in the world. And people just really don't give a fuck about them. And that is not right. And Kelsier is like, we're bringing all this shit down. And so you're trying to see them and this band of misfits come together and topple the empire. Kelsier, Vin, they're friends. I loved them all. And the way that this series just ended for me was just perfect. And I loved it. So it's the whole series for me is getting on the best. Next, we have How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. Just picked this for me in my November TBR. I had my friends pick my TBRs in the later half of the year. And so this was her pick for something that she wishes more people would read. And funnily enough, it is also on her best of the year. This is a collection of short stories that all have this interweaving theme of a pandemic and the effects of a pandemic on the world. And so you're starting off with this story with a person who's at the Arctic Circle researching a body that they found that has emerged from the melting permafrost. And so they're trying to figure out how that person died, what causes led to their death. And in doing so, they discover that in the melting permafrost, there is a disease that has made its way into like the waters and the air of the rest of the world. And so it creates a pandemic, creates a chain effect. You see people who are benefiting from this pandemic, businesses that have started. You see loss of people, friends, family members, people who just are trying to cope with everyday life, what things look like now and how things are different. You even have a story where somebody is way out into the future because they're trying to make things better. And so you're seeing like the long-term effects of this pandemic, of this disease that has affected the world. I think that each story was moving. There was an element of each prior story and each story that followed after it. And it was a compelling read. It really plucked at the heartstrings. There's one story, people think it's really weird, and it is weird. It is about a pig that is raised so that they can eventually harvest the pig's organs for humans, because humans, their organs are failing for reasons due to the disease that they have. And so it's a weird, I'm not gonna lie, it's a weird story, but I enjoyed it so much. It was heartbreaking and just heartwarming, and I absolutely loved it. I loved every single story that was in this collection. And just seeing how humanity really evolves in the face of a plague, of a danger, how we try to survive, what people will do and the lengths that they will go to survive and keep humanity going. I loved it. That being said, I think more people should read this. Number 3 on this list is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I was reading this, and I know you're like, well, where's the rest of the series? I did enjoy the rest of the series, but I will say The Poppy War really, it popped off with this, because while I enjoyed the other 2 books, aside from Ren being a dummy, which I still kind of enjoyed, I have to say I was completely entranced with this book. I blew through this in a matter of days. Not that it's a very long book, but like, I just generally don't blow through books the way I did this. I was just blown away. I remember just texting Dasha and Ray on the side, telling them my thoughts, and then them also having their own conversations talking about how my theories were just wrong. You're following Rin, who tries to get out of her poor country town and escape the future of being married to some crusty old man. And she makes her way into the most elite military school in the country. Now, while she's there, war breaks out, and she has to really get her ass into action. She becomes a leader of sorts. Terrible, to be honest. She discovers who she really is, where she came from, the abilities that she has. And I was just really interested in seeing where it was going. Like I said, I read through this super fast. Is it gory and messy and frightening? And if like horror stories is not your thing, I wouldn't recommend it. But I loved it. I had a grand fucking time. I had people I was rooting for, and then I ended up not rooting for those people. And then some people I wanted to die, and then some people did. And I was happy. Maybe not all in this book, but overall in the series. And I think it was just great. I loved it. And so after reading this, I got very excited because I loved R.F. Kuang's writing, and so I pre-ordered Babel. Did I read it yet? No, but that's neither here nor there. I will get to it. Number 2 on this list is The Good House by Tanana Reeve Dew. I read this for a Black Aweenathon, and it was everything that I wanted from a scary, spooky read. I wanted to be scared, and I was scared. I would read this at night, and then I'd be like, you know what? We can't read this at night anymore because I'm actually terrified. And I love that. That's how I want to be. It was so good. The house is haunted. The woods are haunted. The people are haunted by their past. You have Angela, who has to go back to her hometown because she needs to sell her house. and she really does want to sell the house, but she's conflicted because it belonged to her family for a long time. So she has memories there. She has memories of her grandmother. Even though tragic things happened in that house, including the suicide of her son. And so she has to go back to the house and deal with those feelings. But while she's at the house, there's something very sinister. There's a very sinister presence in the house, in the surrounding area, in the town. And you are following this sinister presence as well as Angela. And it's kind of like a race against the clock. Who's gonna win? Is the sinister presence gonna get Angela, or is she gonna whoop that bitch's ass? Your guess? I was gonna say your guess is as good as mine, but my guess is better because I know what happened. Either way, I had a very, very good time. I will definitely be reading more by her because if she can make me scared as I was reading this, I'm gonna love everything she writes. And then my number one best book of the year. I don't have the copy with me because it is with one of my friends who is reading it. It's Bunny by Mona Awad. I did not expect Bunny to make my number one, but I read that in September because Steph picked it for me when she chose my TBR. God damn, I had a good time with it. It was weird. I wish that I could describe what this book is about to you, but I can't because it was really fucking weird. There's this girl, Samantha. That's her name? Heather? Samantha Mackey, and she is in this writing program with these other girls. They refer to themselves as Bunny, like everybody is Bunny, but collectively they're the bunnies. And one day the bunnies invite Samantha to be a part of their like clique, and this whole time Samantha's been talking trash about them, but like she secretly low-key wanted to be in their group. And so she goes to hang out with them, and then the weirdest shit just pops off. Like they're doing some experimental shit and there's literal bunnies involved. There are bunny men involved. It was weird. There's like one scene that just stays and replays itself in my mind, and it'll have no meaning, but like if you've read it, I think Samantha goes to shake this guy's hand and he just like, or holds his hand and like he goes off. He goes off and it's like screaming. It's hilarious because I can see it playing in my head and it makes me laugh every time. I had such a good time with Bunny. I wish I could show you the book. It's like tabbed up to hell. Like I just had the best time with it. It was so weird. And was it supposed to have some kind of social commentary? Probably. But was I looking for it? No, I was just here for the weird ass shit. I loved it. I had such a fantastic ride. Thank you, Steph, for choosing that book for me to read. Because damn, that was weird. And those are my best and worst of the year. My worst were worsting and my best were really besting. I really enjoyed all of those things. Obviously, they were the best of my year. And so my question for you is, if you've read any of these, what are your thoughts on them? Especially if you read The Other Black Girl. But what was your best and your worst of the year? Let me know down in the comments. And until next time, bye.